Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It is Friday the must look down because don't know the date. It is Friday the 14th of November.
Woo.
And I am Holly Wainwright.
And I am Vernem.
And I'm Jessie Stevens, and I think we had a review recently that asked if we were all intoxicated on Friday.
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
Yes. I got the same thing. Someone said to me, sounds like day drinking. I'm like, well, I'm glad we sound like day drinking. But we have not actually been day drinking.
No.
That would be I don't know, all kinds of rules would be broken if that was the case. We're just happy. On our agenda for today on Mamamia Out Loud, the productivity advice that made me add to cart, but then have a life existential panic attack and cancel buy.
My generation is doing certain things at a certain time in the morning, and it is ruining my social life.
Okay.
Yeah,
and Michelle Obama wants parenting influencers to sit down and listen to their elders, but not everyone is convinced.
Oh.
Who is allowed to give parenting advice? According to my Instagram and TikTok feeds, literally anyone. But Michelle Obama recently announced that if you have a 3-year-old, she's not interested. I feel personally attacked.
I was going to say, Jessie has a 2.5-year-old, don't you? And
I have some advice, Michelle. Here is the former First Lady's take on young parenting influencers.
How old is your baby? 3? Oh, wait. Let me hear what you think when they're 27, and that's when I'll take your advice. I mean, it's crazy, you know? Maybe you can tell me about the latest stroller, but that is it. Otherwise, you were insecure, losing sleep, you don't know what you're doing. And I don't know that you're right until I see the product. I don't know whether your theories made any sense. Why are we listening to the young mother bloggers? I want to talk to Marion Robinson. I want to talk to a woman that has raised the first lady. I want to hear what she did, but we don't do that, you know? All parent bloggers should be grown people.
Interesting, Michelle.
Yeah. So she was quite adamant in her stance. And the interesting part of this story is that the comments were firmly divided. Lots of applause, lots of, I completely agree, Michelle. But equally, there were people saying, no. I need people that are in the trenches. I ask my mum or my grandmother for advice and they can't remember anything about childhood, right? Holly, who should we be taking parenting advice off?
Look, I don't like to contradict the former First Lady because, you know, she's amazing in every way. And when I watched this, I'm like, I wonder what the conversation just before was because I haven't seen the whole thing. But it depends what advice you're looking for, right? Because if you're like how to produce an amazing, successful, happy, well-adjusted human, she's correct, right? Like until you see the end product, how would we know? But if it's how do I get some sleep, you ask someone in the trenches. Because as you already rightly pointed out, Jessie, my kids are teenagers, so we're not, I mean, I don't know if you're ever finished, but we're not finished. But if you ask me about, you know, teething, baby-led weaning, I can't remember. I've blocked all that shit out and I don't care. So it's like, it depends what you want. I think her point about parenting influencers should be grown people. I think parenting experts should probably be, because I think probably what she's getting at is that big mushy ocean of stuff, which is like, if you let your baby cry, they will be insecure. If you don't let your baby cry, they will be people pleasers. If you know, that kind of advice that makes every decision you make in infant world mean something in adult world, then how could you possibly know until that you've got to the end result? So she's right. But if it's just like, how do I get them to stop throwing the carrot at my head? Then you need someone in the trenches, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I look, I understand her point, but I think what she's missing is something that I'm going to call like parental amnesia, which is even with my mum, I've gone, can you remember sleep? And she goes, you all slept. Like how much? When till when?
No,
Did we wake
no
up?
idea.
And then I go, I've asked her about solids and she insists she never started us on solids. She has no memory of it. And I'm like, I don't eat mush. Like I do eat sandwiches and stuff. So at some point solids were introduced. And what you feel like when you're in this, like, you know, with little kids is you need someone a few months ahead. Even years isn't right. I've got a friend who just had a newborn baby and he was like, I'm looking at this bassinet, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, we never had a bassinet. Like, that was 2 years ago, and yes, you did. You completely forgot. What do you reckon, Em? Because, look, there are all these different influencers, I suppose. Some of them don't have kids, aren't experts, aren't researchers, and they have a lot of thoughts on screen time. And I must say, that riles me up. I go, you sit down. You sit down. You say something when you've got like a sick 4-year-old and then you're allowed to have an opinion. What do you reckon? Who gets to say?
It's really funny because I think now more than ever, my mum gets asked for parenting advice all the time.
I would ask your mum for parenting advice. To Michelle Obama's point, like ask Marion Robinson, who raised the First Lady. I want to ask Mrs. Vernem, who raised Emily Vernem.
Yeah.
But they don't know I was such a shitty child. I was such a brat, like an actual awful child, to the point where my mum was like, yeah, you were bad. And I think
in what way? Like as a little kid, as a teenager, as what?
Like a little kid, probably up until the age of like 13, 14, I was just horrible. I was very like, I was just one of those like typical bratty kids you would see on TV where it was just like all about me. Up until I was 12, I wanted to be the one to blow out candles on the cake. And I was 12. I was grown.
Okay, so if you were bratty, maybe your parents adopted Dax Shepard's advice, because Holly, you were listening to a Dax episode the other day.
I actually love it when famous people tell honest stories about their parenting. But Dax Shepard was interviewing Reese Witherspoon. You might have heard of her, I don't know. And he recently bought a place in Nashville, and so he hangs out there a lot now in the South. And that's also where Reese lives, where all the cool people live. And he was talking about the difference between like LA parenting and Southern parenting. And he told this story about being out for dinner with his daughters.
She said it very kindly, but she's basically like, they're kind of shook with how our daughters will talk back to us or to anybody.
Okay.
Because it's very un-Southern, right? Down there, everyone's like, hi, Miss Kristen. Hi, Mr. Dax.
Yes.
There's this whole, you're a kid and there's value to that. There's something I appreciate about that. And she's like, yeah, your kids will let it rip. Like they seem to have no kind of respect, is what she was saying.
Ooh, okay.
And and like feeling a little entitled. And I said, you're dead right.
Oh, okay.
They do talk back, and they are not respectful. And I can understand where that seems like completely unruly. But I want you to know what I'm prioritizing, which is like when they're 19 and their boss creep, I want them to talk back. I want them to be disrespectful. I want them to always advocate for themselves, whether I think they're right or wrong.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm willing to deal with this thing that is embarrassing at a restaurant for y'all, but I can deal with that. I can handle that.
Okay.
Because I want this other thing for them.
Isn't that interesting?
I
What
don't
do
like
you think
that.
about that?
No,
Em?
I didn't like that. I think I was raised to be respectful, just shitty. And then I also think that if you're raised to like talk back at your parents, I can tell the people now around me as like late 20s who were definitely allowed to talk back to their parents.
Yeah, I agree. It's like parenting is a long game, right?
Yeah.
And there are definitely moments. I was a little bit bratty. Of all us 4 kids, I was the brat, and pushed back a lot and could be rude and all that kind of stuff. But there were things that were said to me and I was reprimanded for that. In the moment, I didn't respond to. But as an adult, stuck.
Yeah.
So I think to kind of and in fact, Dax Shepard's advice reminded me of something, which is also that you get the kid you get, right? Like he clearly has a particular set of children and then you work with them. It's like you're gardening, Holly, right? You're like pouring water on a particular plant. And the plants are not all going to grow the same, and you got to work with the plant.
Some of them aren't trying hard. That's the problem.
No, exactly. And some kids aren't trying hard.
Look, I think it's interesting advice. Well, it's not advice. He's not giving anyone advice. He's just saying this is what we do. The thing is that there is obviously nobody wants a bratty kid. And very often what you hear celebrities say is like, my kids are so polite. It tells you various things. A, their kids spend a lot of time in fancy restaurants.
Yes.
And that they have famous parents, so everyone's falling all over them all the time. So they're like counter-programming to make sure their kids are like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And you must tip the wait staff.
Yeah, and all of so let's remember that their children are growing up in a particular bubble. But I think he's got a point. If you raise kids, particularly girls, from a very early age to say you never talk back to adults, You're never rude. You never say no. Like, that's where you get to this point of like, give Uncle so-and-so a hug when, we're trying to instill in little girls that they get a choice of what they do with themselves and their bodies and all those things. And I know that sounds complicated, but that's what he means, right? He means I don't want my kids to just feel like they always have to say yes to every adult and that they always put their needs last. And I get it. Does that mean, one person's talking back is just another person's having a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I said to my kids, they're not allowed to be rude to us, absolutely not. But it doesn't mean that everything we say, they have to say yes. You know what I mean? Yes, mum. Absolutely, mum. Or anything that any other adult says to them, they have to go, thank you, yes. Like I think what he's trying to say is I'm trying to allow them to have autonomy. And this is why this is also interesting with the Michelle Obama business, is it's like the job of parenting tiny kids is keep them alive.
Yeah.
Teach them to eat. Teach them to walk. Teach them to be able to get around the world without bumping their head on stuff.
Yeah.
But the long game of parenting is to try and breed an independent human who can go out into the world and be useful. And in that lens, I think his advice is solid.
I also think it changes generation to generation. Like I was thinking about, and I had like a really honest conversation with my mum about this, and she was saying that the one thing that she regretted raising me and my sister was that she wished she talked to us more, like kind of like have discussions with us like as adults. Because I do remember as a kid, and I don't think this really affected me, but when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that. It was very much like the adults are talking now. And then we had to being brought into the conversation. And I think that's so true for that generation because all my friends had similar experiences. And I think what Michelle Obama is talking about, she's talking about taking advice from parents who kind of parented their kids in such a different way to how parents are parenting their kids now.
Yeah, well, we all get given a different rule book and very controversial intellectual, I suppose you'd call him, although it seems a bit disgraced. Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah. We're bringing out the Jordan Peterson.
We're bringing up the Jordan Peterson because this advice, again, very controversial, but I think there's some, it's got some weight, which is your job is to raise a kid, and this word is loaded, but who's likable. Like if your kid is being unlikable and antisocial in the playground, part of your job is to prepare them for. That's the question too, I suppose. Do you try and change the world for your kid, or do you try and change your kid for the world? And is it constantly a dance? And I suppose it's always
a dance.
It's a dance, and parenting, it's zooming in and out, right?
That advice makes me want to lose my mind.
Yeah,
because I am a people pleaser who likes people to like me. And I can see it in my daughter very much. And there's a bit of you, it's very unfashionable to be a people pleaser these days. So there's a bit of you that kind of pushes back against that. But also the advice I'll give her a lot of the time is like, kill them with kindness, like turn the other cheek, don't make a fuss. Like you're much more likely to get what you want if you're polite and lovely, whatever, all that kind of stuff, which is very people pleasery advice. But then I have another kid who's completely different. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who might think he's rude or unlikable in certain situations, but he's just wired differently. And so all blanket parenting advice is kind of terrible, really.
Yeah.
But I want to know one last thing from Em, because you don't have kids yet and a lot of your friends don't have kids yet, but soon you're going to be surrounded by tiny children because all your friends are going to start having kids because you go to so many weddings and that's how it works. Is that you're going to have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
And I want to know if people who don't have kids are allowed.
Oh, I think we're allowed. Like I'm surrounded by kids. I see your kids. I see what they're doing. I always think,
do you have opinions?
I do have opinions.
Okay, I love that.
There's no way, and I'm speaking as a non-parent, but there's no way you can nail parenting from birth to age 18. And I've seen this firsthand. Like
or 27, as Michelle Obama says.
Or 29, like me, who's still being parented every single day. There's no way you can nail that. And I feel like even like my parents would say, there were like some years we nailed. Like when you were 16, nailed that. When you were 8, probably didn't nail that as much. So I would say, like, if I have kids, I would go to the advice I would take from other parents would be the age that I like their kid the most. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, my kid's coming up to 9. I remember I really liked Luna when she was 9. Jessie, how should I do this?
Also, ultimately, we always like kids who are nice to us.
Yeah.
Like you always, back to that thing about teaching your kids to be nice to people. People are always like, oh, I love Luna because when I see Luna, she likes me.
Yeah, well,
You know,
she
it's so
only likes
simple.
you, Holly. So I think that you should lean into that.
Motivation and productivity gurus are really pulling out the big guns to get our lazy asses off the couch.
What do you mean your motivation isn't peaking on November the 14th?
We've only got a couple of weeks left of the year and they're really pulling out
Like, you
the,
can do
the
it.
serious stuff.
We're so close.
Tell me about the productivity advice that provoked you to put it in the channel of things we discuss and go, is this a joke?
It was an article in The Guardian, and it was a collection of 17 top tips from experts on how to stay motivated.
The fact you clicked is revealing.
I was like,
She's like, have I got the motivation to click on this story? Oh,
I know it
okay.
was 3 p.m.
I was basically just clicking on it to see how can I do my whole job in 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't get any of that advice. But there was one piece of advice came from an author named Austin Kleon, and he said, 2 things motivate me, death and deadlines. The easiest and most enjoyable way to keep death ever present in the mind is to read the obituaries every morning. When I read about people who did something with their lives, it makes me want to do something with mine. So I put this in our Out Loud channel where we talk about topics we want to discuss on the podcast. And I was like, isn't this crazy? Expecting you guys to all agree
And
with
we
me.
went, no, that's so smart. It reminded me of something that I did recently that I need some counseling about that's in this thing, because suddenly I'm seeing this talked about a lot in lots of motivational and coaching places about like keep death close, which I know sounds really dark, but the idea is that if you have a very real idea of that deadline, you're more likely to make the decisions that matter, right? That's the theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed this amazing woman recently called Kemi Neck-for-Pill, and she is an executive coach and she's trained with Brené Brown and she's the real deal. She's Aussie. And in her book, she talked about these posters you could buy that kind of give you a literal visual countdown of how much time you've got left. And the idea is that every Monday you color in a little square and it makes you visually see, oh my God, like time is ticking down. And the idea is it's supposed to motivate you. And I went and looked at these posters are called 4K weeks and they're very stylish and like cool looking. And you put your birthday in because it's obviously they don't know when you're going to die.
No.
Like they're just some bros on the internet, but they don't know when you're going to die. But your gender, your birthplace, you know, that you're obviously your birth date, they give you the estimate. And what you do is you put it in and you press preview or whatever, and it brings up your poster. And the idea, ideally, because the weeks that you've lived are all colored in black, and the weeks you've got to live are all white and plain.
Why is it colored in black? Nothing fun? Like a yellow, maybe?
Well, it's very monochrome because I think it's like supposed to be cool.
Or like a graphic
yeah,
design.
Exactly. And so I put in my birth date and everything, and I saw how much black there was on my chart and how there was just this band of white at the bottom, and I was like, I can't do that, and I had like a hyperventilation. But I
want a
know,
different chart.
Yeah, different chart.
Start again.
The one that Holly was showing me, and it was set to 1994, and I was like, Holly, that's not when you were born.
I'm lying because I want a better chart. But I know, I get the theory, and you subscribe to this theory, right, Jessie?
Yeah. I am obsessed with this theory. I thought him saying death and deadlines, I was like, mate, death is the deadline.
Yeah.
Like that is the ultimate
deadline.
And we've talked about how there's this pressure or urgency that deadlines in life give us, that you'll never write the book if you don't have a deadline, and we'd never record this podcast if we didn't have to sit down at a particular time. But the knowledge that there's this looming thing, that everything is finite, I just find it incredibly clarifying. And I am obsessed with death. Like I think about it constantly. And my big thing is head down, touch the pillow. Like I've got some association with it where I then just go, you can die one day. And I like, sometimes I freak out.
Does it freak you out? I was going to say, like, so does that freak you out or does that make you go, so tomorrow I'm going to be my best self?
Yeah, no, it does both. So I was recommended by a psychologist a book to read called Staring at the Sun, which is all about death anxiety. And I read it and it was meant to make me feel better. It didn't make me feel better at all. But I think the anxiety is the point. It's like it makes you double down on your values. It makes you remember what's important. And I think that to avoid it is to trick yourself into thinking that you have all the time in the world. Like, I can't think of any other way to motivate myself other than, like, you know, when you watch a black and white movie and you go, we're all dead.
Oh, God.
Like, do you ever think that? And everyone who loved them.
So scary.
I do think that. But I think this is one of those two types of people things,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you, Em, in a minute. But first, I want to play you a little bit of what Kemi told me about how she thinks, for example, the example she was talking about here is quitting a job that you don't like, right? I know that's not the case. You love your job. But like, she's using it as a thing of like, if something in your life is not working for you, it can be a very good filter to decide whether or not to jump. Listen to this bit.
For some people, success is putting food on the table and their identity is not tied to their work. If your identity is so tied to your work that you are willing to risk your health, your well-being, your mental health, your relationships, your delight, your fun, your connection to self and others, that may be a situation where knowing that you're going to die one day may give you a bit more clarity.
What do you think?
I
Do you
don't
find
like
that inspiring or does it make you feel sick?
It makes me feel sick. And also, I feel like with the like work analogy, we're treating it like death is literally on our doorstep, like tomorrow.
But it could be.
It
That's
could
I think
be.
that's
But it
the
could be,
point.
but it's most likely not. So what? You quit your job,
Can you
and then
touch
you're
some
just
wood?
waiting.
Touch some wood. Everybody touch some
Everyone
wood.
touch wood. You quit your job, and then what? You have like 50 more years?
But you know,
You're like, but it's coming.
there's this thought experiment that says like, okay, if I lived every week like my last week, like the last week of your life.
You run out of money.
Yes, but like the last week of your life, just think about it with how much you saw your friends, how much you worked, how much you blah, blah, blah. What, like, would I be happy? And if the answer is no, then it's like, well, I might change some things because this is a holiday that I'm on that's going to end one day.
But realistically, what can you change?
You can change lots of things. So Kemi's example there is I think the point that she's making is like, if there's something in your life that isn't working, whether it's a job that you feel really strongly about, but actually the stress of it and what it's costing you is great. And that's true for lots of people. Or whether it's a relationship that you feel you can't leave because the stakes are really high. Maybe you've got kids, maybe you've been together forever. The point is kind of, for some people, the idea that like, you're really going to live your whole life doing something that is making you sick or making you unhappy or all those things. Because if we just live day to day all the time, you never think about that big picture. And I'm not, it's only quite recently, and I get this is probably age, right, that this has begun to feel urgent for me. I've always felt when I was in my 20s, when I was your age, Jessie, like that I had all the time in the world. And so whatever path I wanted to meander down was fine. And it was. I had lots of great adventures. But now the idea of that chart with the white stripe at the bottom, it does make me, in a good way, like not in a panicky way, it does make me think, well, how much longer do I want to do X, Y, Z? How much longer do I really want to hang out with this person or that person or go and do that thing that is taking precious days off that chart? You know what I mean? I think that's I actually do see
like
the
an eye-opener.
motivation there.
I think about it with travel too. I go, if you have always wanted to go to Africa and go on a safari, like what are we all waiting for? Like, are we waiting for time to just open up, for the money to just appear? Like those sorts of things, you go, one day it's not going to be possible anymore. So I find that kind of urgency incredibly inspiring. Like, do you feel that?
No.
I love it. Don't talk to me about it. La, la, la,
Actually,
la.
I'm going to ask if you find this motivating.
Okay.
There's a comedian named Hannah Berner, and
Yes.
she's very funny. And she says before she gets on stage every night to do her show, she says to herself, you're going to die one day. And then she goes out. And she says it is so liberating because she's like, so what? So what? This is a risk. I'm going to go and take the risks. And it's inconsequential. Go and have fun. Life is short. Like, can you see the liberation in that?
I see it in a way, like I, very similarly, not death, but I, like for example, when we did the Out Loud live show, I was like, if I don't do that, you will 100% regret it. I think I live off that. Like, I don't want to regret anything.
Yeah, right.
Not because I'm going to die. It's a bit too much for me.
Too much.
There is a new type of culture, and it is infecting all my relationships, including my friendships and my dating life. And it is called dawn culture. Have we heard of dawn culture?
Well, I think I may have told you guys about dawn culture yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I
right.
went to
Yes, we stole this from you.
Yeah. Well, you didn't steal. I stole it from somebody else. There's no such thing as my grandma used to say. There's now new under the sun. She used to say. Anyway, I went to a work conference thing, and there was a big forecasting trends piece. I love those things.
Yeah.
And they're like, these are the things that are happening in culture that are affecting how everybody's buying and what they're doing and blah blah blah. And one of them was dawn culture. And it was about how lots of savvy brands, because this was about brands and selling things to people, have moved their like pop-ups and celebrations from evening or lunchtime to dawn in certain locations. This is not only in Australia, but like, because that's where all the young people are. They are getting up really early and either exercising or walking or meeting with their friends at the crack of dawn instead of at the other end of the day. And there's a whole movement of it, and it's called dawn culture.
It is ruining my life.
So it's real. So like
it's
that.
real.
Yes.
It is so real. Everyone in my life around my age is doing this except for me, apparently. So it's like all my friends have suddenly stopped doing the let's get drinks after work, let's go for dinner at 7:30, 8 p.m, let's go watch a show, let's go walk the streets of the city at nighttime. They're all like messaging me at 6:30 in the morning going, are you free for a coffee?
Oh,
No,
wow.
the
No, I
sun's
didn't
not
sleep.
free for the coffee. I am not free for coffee. I was on my dating, like swiping on my dating apps, and I saw this profile.
Oh,
and
dawn dating.
dawn dating. I saw this profile, and this guy said, like, he was saying his most typical Sunday is like, and he wrote sunrise, ocean swim, breakfast at a cafe, going to the gym, house chores, going to a spa for a sauna session, meal prepping for the week, watching the sunset, and in bed by 9:30 p.m.
Oh no.
My ideal Sunday is waking up hoping I don't have a hangover. And that is it.
Oh, no.
That is literally it. But it's become this huge thing. And it's now getting to the point where if I don't start waking up before 8:30 a.m., which is the time I wake up, I'm going to lose all my friendships.
On the weekend, the time you wake up is 8:30 a.m.
And
I
the
think
week-
that's early.
What time of day do you wake up on a Wednesday?
like 8:15
Wow.
to 8:30 sometimes.
That's amazing.
I'm in awe.
It's bad. It's
That's
so
not
bad.
bad.
So
It's-
apparently, I mean, it's dawn culture, but there is also something called the morning economy, which is booming, which is about like cafes, yoga classes. Apparently, like Australia is just our obsession with breakfast has really gotten out of hand.
And now there are like morning raves you can go to. And they're not
Yes.
ones,
There's no alcohol.
Yeah, so it's not ones from like after parties, which have always existed, obviously, that go on from there.
Like in
These are
warehouses.
specifically for the dawn culture crowd. So there isn't alcohol, and it's to start your day great and then go to work.
So this is a good thing, right? Because people are drinking less. Apparently, the biggest days for dawn culture are Wednesdays and Thursdays, and they think that that's because people go into the office midweek mostly, so they're trying to get their exercise or their socializing in before they go to the office. I also think when we start work has gotten earlier and earlier. It's not 9 o'clock anymore. A lot of people need to be in the office before that, in which
8:30.
case they need to be up at 3 a.m. The other thing that I read was that I want you to guess what city in the world is the earliest to go to bed and the earliest to wake up.
It might be Sydney.
It's not, but it's an Australian city. You get one more guess. Em?
Perth?
No.
Melbourne.
Brisbane.
Brisbane.
Earliest to bed, earliest to wake up. Apparently it's like 10 something there in bed.
In the world.
6 something. Yep. And not only that, but like they're getting a really good sleep. Whereas like in New York, Japan, even Melbourne, they say that the average is like 6 hours something. Brisbane, they're sleeping a lot. They're just getting up really early. And I wonder if this is also, I hate to bring it up, a bit of a climate change story. I wonder if this is getting too hot. And so if we want to exercise and get outdoors, we have to do it before the sun.
Well, you see all the videos. I remember last year, Bondi Beach, like swarms of flies in the middle of the day. And
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
like, swatting- And I'm like, the only time you could go was like when there's no sun.
Yeah.
I reckon there are a few things at work here because it is a good thing, Jessie. But one of the things about it is, like, I'm an early morning person. I didn't used to be. It happened to me weirdly, like after kids, really.
Yeah.
Because
Do you feel you're better than other people?
No, not at all. It's just
She does, actually.
I like being outside early in the morning.
She brings it up a lot for
I
someone
do.
who doesn't
Yeah,
think she's
I
better
do.
than
And
me.
you always look so fresh in our morning meetings.
Yeah, yeah. And she's like, I went for a walk and I had my breakfast. And I'm like, oh.
And then traveling interstate with you. I'll come to your hotel room and you'd already been out for like a 2-hour walk.
I love
and
a
I've just
walk.
woken up.
I love a walk in the morning. It's my thing. But the part of that is because it's the only time of day. Like, you know, you train yourself. That's when I do my exercise. If I don't do it, then it's not getting done. Jessie's a going to the gym at night person. I have never understood going to the gym at night, people. That is so. I think you're one or the other. But the thing is I used to live by a beach in Sydney for a lot of years. For 20 years, I lived by a beach in Sydney. And when you used to go out early in the morning, when I was like pushing a pram and all those kind of things, the only people around really at that time were either a small number of boot campers or people who were still out from the night before, who were like kind of shaking off their hangover, you know. But now when I stay at that same suburb and go down to the beach at 6:30, it is rammed. There are so many people there, and they are all young and they are all beautiful and they're all in their athleisure, and some of them are running and some of them are just catching up for coffee, and the coffee queues are really long.
And what time would this be?
6:30.
Whoa.
And so I think
Oh my God.
I think it's like it's good in a way, but it's also meant that all the peace and tranquility and the loveliness of being out at that time of day is kind of gone because the hordes are there. But it's interesting that you brought up bedtime, Jessie, because there was an article in the Wall Street Journal last year that said that 9 o'clock has become the cool time to go to bed for young people.
Wow.
What?
And I think about the different things I've been doing at 9 o'clock at different times in my life. You know
Tells
what I mean?
your life story.
It really does. If you think about your 9 p.m. stories from your life,
Yeah.
like there was a period when that was bedtime, obviously, when you were a kid. And then there's the period that maybe that was the time you'd go out. You know what I mean? It's like you might be heading out at 9 o'clock rather than coming home. And then there's the time when that's when the kids have finally gone to bed and you get to sit on the couch. And then, you know what I mean? But like going to bed at 9 o'clock seems very early to me.
It seems
It's
aggressive.
so early.
But apparently it's very cool to do that.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they're saying that dinner reservations are getting earlier and earlier. And I was like,
I went for a dinner at 5 p.m.
You're too young for
That's
that.
I know, but you can't get a booking anymore. It's
Yeah.
5 p.m. or it's nothing. And then you go there and everyone else is like, firstly, they're still setting up the tables. So I'm like, why are you even open at this time? And then it'll be like me and like someone's grandma.
Yeah.
But apparently not, because it's supposed to be when all the cool people are going. I think you're going to have to start getting up early
Yeah.
because that's apparently where all the squeaky clean people are.
Maybe I'll join you for your walks.
We won't pick up. If you're with me, you're not going to pick up. I'm going to be like, not him. Maybe him. No.
It's Friday, so we wanted to help set up your weekend. Holly, what have you got for us today?
I've got a TV show that's really good, but I'm also going to pretend that I haven't been absolutely obsessed with Celebrity Traders UK. Have you watched any of that?
Why is this all anyone's talking about?
It is
So,
so good.
I was going to recommend it, but then I realized I'm too late because it's just finished. But if you've managed to avoid the tsunami of content about it, it's all on 10 Play and you can watch it from the beginning. So it's the British reality show where they put a load of people in a castle and you have to guess which ones are the traders.
Are they randoms or are they famous?
These ones are famous because it's Celebrity Traders and it's such a good cast. It's like Stephen Fry and Celia Imrie and Alan Carr and like just all these really funny, brilliant people. And Claudia Winkleman, who hosts that show, like I am so obsessed with her.
She's very
so
cool.
obsessed with her. Anyway, so what I've really been watching is just that on my laptop because Brent refuses. He thinks it's trash, and I'm just like, you don't know my life, and I'm like, oh, vanilla. But what we've been watching together that you should all get on board with because it's dropping week to week is a new show called Down Cemetery Road. It's heavy. Mia wouldn't like it, but she's not here anymore.
Is this the one with Emma Thompson?
Yes. So
And she looks very cool.
Yes.
Like a leather jacket.
So it's based on the first book by the guy who went on to write the Slow Horses books. So it's like
Slow Horses, great show.
oh,
I'm on
great
season
show.
3.
Holly, you should get on this. It's a great.
Holly, have we told you about Slow Horses?
It's amazing.
Similarly,
I'm going to
Have you
kill you all.
F1.
Yeah, Holly,
It's a
I
great
think you
documentary.
really like F1 documentary.
Okay. So Down Cemetery Road, written by that guy, so you get a vibe. But it is amazing because the main woman is called Sarah Tucker, the character, and she's played by Ruth Wilson, who, if you saw her, you'd know exactly who she is. She's a brilliant actress. But she is a an art restorer who's married to this investment banker, which God knows why. And they live in this house in Oxford. And anyway, one night they're having a dinner party from hell. Too much detail to go into. And their window blows in because across the road there is an explosion.
Ooh.
And this explosion kills 2 adults and sends a little kid to hospital. And when Sarah becomes obsessed with finding out what's happened to this little girl, she sort of stumbles into a web of intrigue, right? I guess you'd say. And then she goes to get some help from this private detective agency, which is run by this married couple. And the woman is called Zoe Baum, and she is played by Emma Thompson. And it is the most glorious show. Like,
How many episodes have
there
dropped?
are 8, but only 3 have dropped.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're dropping once a week. And the tone of it is so interesting. It's kind of slightly surreal, and it's funny, and it's dark. And Emma Thompson is amazing, and so Sarah Tucker. And there's just lots of smart stuff in there about motherhood and crime and capitalism, blah blah blah. But the actual show is just so enjoyable. Out Louders are going to freaking love it if they're not on it already, and you need to watch it so we can talk about it. Down Cemetery Road, it's on Apple TV Plus.
I'm sold. All right, Em, what have you got?
Okay. Huge news. I've started cooking. I know.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so much. I realized I was pushing 30, and it's not really like people don't react the same way when I say I don't cook.
Yeah, it's
I
like-
keep
eat out
shoes in
every
my
night.
oven.
They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're 30, you need to cook. Like, that's bad. So I've started, and I have this I still have this fear of cooking meat. Like I haven't worked my way through it yet.
Yeah.
I think I am always scared of something going wrong. So I started small. I started with salmon,
Great idea.
and I got like the salmon recipe from Recipe Tin Eat, Nagi.
Another great
the
idea.
best. It was like these little salmon bites, 12 minutes, and it's like the best tasting fish ever.
Tell
and
me
I
what's
love
in
fish.
this.
So it's literally So you literally get like your salmon fillets without the skin, and you dice them up, and then you coat them in all of these spices that you should already have in your pantry. Like I had them in my pantry.
You had
Okay.
them?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I
that's
had to
good.
buy new ones because mine solidified.
And had weevils in them.
Yes.
And then you have to bang them on the
Yeah.
table. I get it.
Did you know you're meant to change your spices like once a year?
Yeah,
Once a year, surely not.
I-
5 years.
I don't,
minimum.
but it is true that often I'll go rummaging for something and you're like, oh, maybe not.
I have a question about the salmon.
Mhm.
Does it taste fishy?
It doesn't taste fishy.
Babe, it's fish.
It's like it tastes like salmon.
Mm,
But it's
I
like
don't
there's so
it.
much there's so much spices, and it becomes really crispy. And her hack when you put them in the oven is to like scrunch up foil and then put the foil on the tray so it has like these little grooves. Because if you put salmon on a tray, the underneath becomes like a bit slimy.
Yes, that's true.
So if you have the little grooves in the foil, it kind of like it acts like little prongs. So this whole salmon gets crispy.
Oh, she's
and you
so
don't have
clever.
to turn them.
Okay.
And so I've been making these little salmon bowls. So I have my salmon that I made myself. And then I have like some rice and some tomato and some avocado and some like peri-peri sauce and some
Yum.
lettuce. And it's so good. And I've been telling everyone in the office.
and
everyone's really
healthy and
proud.
protein.
Oh, so protein. Big one.
Oh my goodness, you are better than me.
I'll put
I
the
love
recipe
it.
in the show notes because it's yummy, yummy, yummy.
Look, full transparency, I was going to recommend this incredible hairbrush that's changed my life.
Oh,
But then
ooh.
I went on the internet and it's only available for pre-order. They're out. And I was like, I'm not doing that to Out Loud. We're not pre-ordering.
Oh.
Once it's back, I'm going to tell you about it so that you can press and you can buy
I
it.
do
Perfect.
need a good hairbrush.
Yes, it's incredible.
Maybe we'll just share yours.
As Out Loud as
I'll
can
bring it
tell.
in. This hairbrush is amazing. But anyway, I was like, okay, I can't do my hairbrush. So I have a slightly grim, quite rogue recommendation that is adjacent to the death discussion, which is it was my grandfather's funeral the other week. I think I brought it up. And we did something there that people have talked about since and said, that's something I want to do at my funeral. So I just wanted to plant the seed as something that you might think about, you know, one day when you find yourself.
Well, and also, like, we were being quite flippant when we were talking about that, like, you know, live every day like it's your last kind of thing. But people are losing people all the time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
having ideas of how to remember them well is always really important.
Exactly. So what we did was Pop was Catholic, so we went to, like, the actual service was in a church and it was quite religious, which was really beautiful because I knew how much that meant to him. So that was a real part of him. And then afterwards there was the wake. And what we did at the wake was hand around a microphone. So we started by kind of saying, you know, there were some eulogies and they talked about his life and they were really beautiful. But it's a little bit more formal in a church, right? So we did this thing. I don't even know how long it went for, but it was so insightful and funny and beautiful to just hand this microphone around were a lot of people who maybe there were inappropriate stories they wouldn't have wanted to tell in a church.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some like confessions or like I've spoken on this show about my pop up until he was over the age of 90 was caring for my cousin with an intellectual disability, and their relationship was iconic. Also hilarious because they drove each other mad.
Yeah.
And so it was funny to kind of get there and everyone go, okay, I know we've romanticized a relationship, but can we also remember and just tell these funny stories? And two people, my cousin and his mother, both have intellectual disabilities, and they got to speak, which was really nice. And my auntie got up and said, I've never seen a dead body, which was just a really inappropriate thing to say, but it wouldn't have been Pop's funeral without that.
I'm not laughing. It's just
No, you have to laugh.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? And especially when it is such a celebration of life because he lived to 98. It was the most beautiful ritual to kind of have everyone share something. And I don't know if it was in the Out Louders or where I saw it, and it reminded me of the Jane Goodall conversation you guys had a few weeks ago about your last words. But someone said, because we knew Pop was old, he had dementia. And I heard someone say they asked a parent, what do you want the last words at your funeral to be or whatever? And then they got up and said them. And I was like, I wish I'd asked him that. I wish I'd just said to him, like, what would your last words be? And then present it in that kind of format. Because it's so weird. You can know that someone doesn't have all the time in the world and you still avoid those conversations.
Yeah.
So it was a really beautiful thing to do.
Also,
and
with wakes, you're already doing that with people.
Yes.
Because you're all just talking about that person and how they affected your life. And a lot of people that I've met, even at my grandfather's wake, were people I never knew.
yes.
I'm like, how did you know this person? And I think just having a mic and doing that in front of everyone is just such a good idea.
It's like
'Cause
an
you're already doing it.
icebreaker,
Yeah.
and it was genuinely really entertaining and lovely. So it was a lovely little ritual.
That's beautiful, Jessie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.